There is a way to pray that goes beyond your natural understanding, a way that does not depend on intellect, education, or emotional strength. Many believers try to approach every challenge with reasoning alone, carefully analyzing every detail, weighing every option, and still finding themselves uncertain and restless. But spiritual matters require spiritual solutions. God never intended for you to navigate life using your mind alone. He placed His Spirit within you to guide you from the inside out. When you pray in tongues, you step into that higher realm of communication where your spirit takes the lead and your mind takes its proper place. Praying in tongues is not emotional excitement, nor is it religious formality. It is a supernatural partnership between your human spirit and the Holy Spirit. When you speak in other tongues, you are not speaking to people. You are speaking directly to God, uttering mysteries that your natural mind cannot comprehend. Your understanding may be unfruitful, but your spirit is actively engaging with divine wisdom. While your intellect remains limited, your spirit is accessing unlimited insight. This is why praying in tongues is so powerful when you need answers and direction. Often, confusion lingers because people attempt to figure out spiritual direction through mental effort. They say, "I just need to think about it more," or "I need more information." Information has its place, but revelation comes from within. The Spirit of God already knows the end from the beginning. He knows the right decision, the right timing, the right association, and the right path. When you pray in tongues, you allow Him to pray through you according to perfect knowledge. You are speaking divine secrets about situations you may not fully understand. There is also a strengthening that takes place. The more you pray in the Spirit, the more sensitive you become to the inward witness. It is like tuning a radio to the correct frequency. At first there may be static distractions, wandering thoughts, but as you continue, your spirit becomes quiet and receptive. That inner noise begins to fade. Fear loses its grip. Emotional pressure starts to lift. And in that place of spiritual clarity, direction begins to form. Some wait for dramatic signs, but the Spirit most often leads through a gentle knowing. Praying in tongues helps you recognize that knowing. It builds confidence in the guidance that rises from within. You begin to trust that inward peace more than outward circumstances. Even if your mind does not yet understand, your spirit bears witness to truth. This kind of prayer shifts your dependence from human reasoning to divine guidance. It trains you to respond from your spirit rather than react from your emotions. It opens a channel for wisdom that cannot be accessed through logic alone. As you yield your tongue to the Spirit, you are acknowledging that God's understanding surpasses yours, and you are choosing to rely on His perfect insight instead of your limited perspective. Too many believers are looking outward for direction when the primary guidance of God is inward. They search for signs, chase confirmations, and depend heavily on external voices, yet overlook the still small witness within their own spirit. The Spirit of God does not lead you primarily through pressure, panic, or confusion. He leads you through peace, through a settled assurance that rises from deep within. But that inward witness must be cultivated, and one of the greatest ways to sharpen your sensitivity to it is by praying in tongues consistently and deliberately. When you pray in the Spirit, you quiet the dominance of the flesh. The mind is often loud. It replays past failures, predicts worst-case scenarios, and magnifies obstacles. Emotions can rise and fall with circumstances, making it difficult to discern what is truly from God. But your spirit, the part of you that is born of God, carries His life and His nature. Praying in tongues strengthens that inner man. It shifts your awareness away from surface feelings and towards spiritual reality. As your spirit becomes stronger, the inward witness becomes clearer. Think of it as tuning your spiritual senses. If you rarely pray in the Spirit, your inner sensitivity may feel dull. You might struggle to distinguish between fear and caution, between excitement and genuine leading. But as you make praying in tongues a daily habit, your spirit becomes more alert, You begin to recognize subtle checks, gentle promptings, and peaceful confirmations. You notice when something seems right even if it doesn't make sense naturally. You also notice when something appears attractive outwardly but carries unrest within. This inward unrest is just as important as peace. God often leads by putting a restraint in your spirit. It may not be dramatic. It may simply feel unsettled or heavy. If you ignore that check and move ahead based only on logic or opportunity, you may step outside of divine timing. But when you have spent time praying in tongues, you become more disciplined in following that inward signal. You learn to pause when there is no peace. You learn to proceed when there is deep assurance. Praying in tongues also helps you separate divine guidance from emotional impulse. Emotions can imitate excitement that feels spiritual. Fear can disguise itself as wisdom. Pressure can masquerade as urgency. But the leading of the Spirit carries steadiness. It does not rush you into confusion. As you pray in the Spirit over decisions, something settles. The agitation begins to fade. Clarity may not come all at once, but direction begins to crystallize gradually. Consistency is the key. Not occasional moments, but regular time spent praying in the Spirit. As you do, your spirit rises above mental noise. The voice of doubt grows weaker. The witness of peace grows stronger. You begin to trust that inward flow more confidently than outward circumstances. You respond to life from the inside out rather than the outside in. And the more you cultivate that inward awareness, the more naturally you walk in step with divine direction in everyday decisions, conversations, opportunities, and responsibilities. If you are facing a major decision and every option seems reasonable in the natural, that is when praying in tongues becomes especially valuable. There are moments in life when logic cannot clearly separate the right choice from the almost right choice. Both doors may appear open. Both opportunities may look promising. Both relationships may seem beneficial. Yet only one aligns fully with the perfect will of God for your life. The difference is not always visible outwardly, but it is discernible inwardly when you give the Spirit room to work through you in prayer. When you pray in tongues over a matter, you are allowing the Holy Spirit to pray out the perfect will of God concerning that situation. You may not know all the details. You may not see the hidden factors, but the Spirit does. He understands consequences, timing, unseen influences, and future developments. As you yield to Him in prayer, you are cooperating with divine foresight. Instead of reacting to what is visible, you are aligning with what is eternal. Set aside focused time to pray in the Spirit about the decision before you. Remove distractions. Quiet your environment. Begin to pray in tongues specifically with that matter in your heart. You do not need to force interpretation. You do not need to demand immediate clarity. Simply continue praying, trusting that something is being accomplished in the unseen realm. While you pray, your spirit is being strengthened and fine-tuned. After you have prayed, pay attention to what remains in your spirit. One option may carry a deep, settled peace. It may not excite your emotions dramatically, but it feels stable and right. The other option may seem attractive, yet leave a slight uneasiness, a subtle hesitation you cannot explain naturally. That hesitation is not to be ignored. Often the Spirit guides more by peace than by excitement. Peace is a reliable indicator of alignment. There are also times when direction unfolds progressively. You may pray in tongues for several days about the same matter. Gradually, scriptures may rise in your heart that apply to your situation. A certain path may grow stronger in your spirit, while the other loses its appeal. This is not coincidence. It is the inward witness becoming clearer through consistent prayer. The more you pray, the more distinct the impression becomes. Praying in tongues also protects you from being swayed by pressure from others. Well-meaning friends and family may offer advice based on their perspective. Circumstances may push you toward what appears urgent, but when you have spent time praying in the Spirit, you are less likely to be moved by external urgency. You become anchored internally. Decisions are no longer made from anxiety or impulse, but from assurance. Do not rush the process. Divine direction does not respond to panic, it responds to yielded hearts. As you continue praying in tongues, you are training yourself to rely on spiritual perception rather than natural appearance. You are learning to value inward peace above outward opportunity. And in doing so, you position yourself to choose not just what is good, but what is truly ordained and prepared for you in the plan of God. Praying in tongues is not only about receiving direction for major decisions, it is also a safeguard that keeps you aligned daily with the will of God. Life is filled with small choices that eventually shape your future. A conversation you engage in, an opportunity you accept, a reaction you express in a tense moment. These may seem minor, yet they carry influence. When you cultivate the habit of praying in the Spirit, you are strengthening your ability to respond to life from a place of spiritual awareness rather than emotional impulse. One of the great benefits of praying in tongues is that it brings your will into submission. The tongue is closely connected to the will. When you yield your tongue to the Holy Spirit, you are symbolically and practically yielding your plans, preferences, and opinions. You are acknowledging that His wisdom exceeds yours. This posture of surrender positions you to receive clearer direction because pride and self-determination no longer dominate the process. The Spirit is not forcing you, He is leading you as you cooperate willingly. There are moments when you may feel uncertain without knowing why. No obvious danger is present, yet something does not sit right within you. Instead of ignoring that subtle signal, take time to pray in tongues. As you do, the confusion begins to lift. Either peace will replace the uncertainty, confirming that you are safe to proceed, or the check will grow stronger, urging you to pause. This internal calibration becomes sharper the more consistently you pray in the Spirit. Praying in tongues also builds endurance. Sometimes direction is clear, but the path requires patience. In those seasons, doubt can try to creep in. Questions may arise. Did I hear correctly? Should I reconsider? Continued prayer in the Spirit reinforces what has already been revealed. It strengthens your inner conviction so that you are not easily shaken by delay or opposition. What was once a faint assurance becomes a steady confidence. Another dimension is intercession. There are situations you are unaware of, future challenges, unseen influences, spiritual opposition. When you pray in tongues, you are allowing the Spirit to address matters beyond your knowledge. You may be praying protection over yourself, wisdom over future conversations, or favor in circumstances not yet visible. This form of prayer prepares the way ahead of you. It clears obstacles you do not even realize exist. Make it part of your daily routine, not as a ritual but as communion. Pray while driving, while walking, during quiet moments throughout the day. You are not striving, you are fellowshipping. The more natural it becomes, the more conscious you are of the Spirit's presence. His guidance begins to flow into ordinary moments. You sense when to speak and when to remain silent. You recognize when to move forward and when to wait. Over time, praying in tongues transforms how you approach life. You are less reactive, less driven by fear or urgency. You become anchored in an inward stability that does not fluctuate with circumstances. Your decisions are shaped by peace. Your responses are filtered through spiritual awareness, and step by step, you walk in a rhythm of guidance that reflects trust in the one who knows the end from the beginning